One more topic, baby. And we're almost done.
Yep.
What are we doing in this last topic, Jacob?
So, as of this morning, as of recording this morning, which is the 30th of October, there has been many reports put out that Donald Trump gave an interview basically saying that he has plans to sign an executive order that would be the end of birthright citizenship in the United States. It's caused a lot of conflict over like whether or not he actually has that authority, and whether or not it's the right thing to do. So yeah, that's going to be our discussion about kind of just the nature of birthright citizenship itself, and like, do you think it's a good idea? And do you think? Well, I guess we're going to have a hard time commenting on like, do you think the president has the power to do it? But
Well, let's do that first. How about we get that out of the gate?
okay.
Well, technically yes and no, because he has executive powers which were given back during Truman, where basically you could just write stuff off.
I think so. Yeah, that around that time period.
Like I don't know the exact wordage, but basically he just writes, "You're done," which is like weird. It's kind of unconstitutional, obviously, and it goes away from checks and balances. I don't like executive orders at all. That means going back to like every single executive order that's ever been done, regardless of how good it's done. I don't think that's what should be done. I think everything should go through Congress. But technically, yes and no because of the power he's given, but also no because of the 14th Amendment, I believe was what it was.
I have it pulled up here.
Yeah. Which you want to read that?
Do you want me to read it? Yeah. So I just have section 1 here, which is really all that we need. So the 14th Amendment was Constitution of America, revised 1992. I don't think that's that old. I guess I should look it up when the 14th Amendment was passed. But
I have my Constitution book around here somewhere.
That's okay. So section 1 of the 14th Amendment says, and I quote, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws."
Yeah. So, with that said, I mean, it depends on the wording of what the executive order is going to be, because is it going to be from the day he signs it, where everyone is not going to be, if you're not a natural born citizen after the day he signs it, then is that where it starts, or does it start beforehand?
There
has to be a deadline.
They're probably going to set a date, like maybe the 1st of this year, or maybe the 1st of next year. If this happens, I would say like the 1st of this year or the 1st of next year.
This is all hypothetical, everyone. We're just talking right now.
Yeah. Because I cannot foresee a world where like they try to revise. Like I can't imagine that they wouldn't grandfather the people in that are in right now.
Yeah, because there's someone, like I said, there's a lot of, I don't want to call them stupid people. They're really hardworking people that I've seen on Facebook post stuff saying like, "Oh, my grandfather was born in Mexico, and I think he was I think he's a legal citizen technically." But like she was like saying like, "Oh, he's gonna get deported or something because of this." I was like, That's not at all what's going to happen. Yeah, it's not at all what's going to happen. What's going to happen is, like we said, there's going to be a date, or after this date, any child born after this date that isn't parented by by one or two, is it both? I'm assuming it's
I assume it only has to be one.
Yeah, where one parent has to be a legal citizen of the United States for that child to be a natural born citizen technically, which is kind of goes back to what we talked about a couple months ago and on one of our other segments that we had at the end like this, talking about a tweet that kind of solved the or it was not it didn't solve it obviously, but it was a step towards a solution of Colin Moriarty's tweet not too long ago about this law being outlawed again, or in that example was basically taking this law out of the books. I mean, when you look at it when I look at it, I don't even know how I feel about this at the moment. But when I look at it from a point of view that makes sense, this might prevent, obviously, what's going on with people migrating here from those caravans. It kind of discouraged them, but also kind of makes the wall not a thing. It's like you still need border protection, I guess, but because we're still after this, if this goes into or gets signed for some reason, I don't know if it is. We'll see, but if it does, I still think we're gonna get a flux of immigrants that are gonna come through. It's just they're gonna be processed, I guess, a little bit quicker or faster. But you're still gonna. I think it helps minimize the wall kind of idea, because I feel like there's some parts of the border that probably needs some kind of protection, but I don't think at the moment, just through this administration, maybe through over time we'll be able to, I guess, do that. But at the moment, no. That's just me, realistically, what I think. It's just not going to happen overnight like this, where the whole thing is going to be basically protected. You know what I mean? I don't think it's feasible. But yeah, for me, I don't know how I feel, because in my eyes, I benefited off of this amendment through ancestors, or through my great grandmother, which I think is the closest through which benefited off of this.
So did your great grandparents come here legally?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Because actually that was weird, because my Uncle Bobby just sent me a picture of my great grandmother right now, which is weird, because we were talking about this stuff. But looking at it, it's just it's weird because I benefited off of this. So should I not allow someone else to benefit off? It's just me being moral. Or not being more, but just having empathy for that kind of thing, I guess. I guess you did too. But I guess if you came off the boat from the eastern part of the states, you kind of were. Once you came through Ellis Island, you're technically legal because you went through the process, right?
Immigration is not citizenship. There's a difference.
No, I meant from. I'm not okay. I'm talking about from when your ancestors came through.
Yeah. So they came through. Actually, it was Massachusetts.
Okay.
It wasn't Ellis Island. It's kind of funny. I guess you were talking about you're got the picture of your great grandmother and such, and I spent probably 8 to 10 hours a month or so ago on Ancestry.com, and I was able to go all the way back to Massachusetts, and then I have the actual document signed by my ancestor of them applying for citizenship. So once that, so all of those went through the legal processes of the time. So it's they were a registered what's the word that I'm looking for? Passenger on this boat that came from England and landed in Massachusetts. They got off the boat, they immigrated into the country, set themselves up, and then 5 or 6 years later, that person applied for as I guess my great great grandfather or something like that applied for citizenship. In Virginia, I think, or something like that. Anyway, so all the everything was above board.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, because my
so this wouldn't have affected me.
Yeah, because my mom's side, we've been here for a long ass time, because I'm Native American on her side, and then even if you go back to, because all that stuff runs through, it barely runs through any kind of Hispanic blood, but it mostly runs through European blood, through France and Ireland apparently. But yeah, it's mostly my dad's side where it's that's where I'm kind of I don't know how I feel about it yet. I just need to see something that appeals to me, I guess. But for me, like I said, it makes sense from the perspective of not having to build the wall immediately, I guess, or having to trying to play that kind of card politically. But I don't like it's we're the only country that does this, I believe, in the world.
That's actually not true. And
Or
I was
there's, like,
actually
a handful?
surprised to learn that. So
There's a
apparently the
handful
number
then.
is 30
Okay.
that have
Wow, there's a lot more.
some version here. I actually pulled up the map before we started.
I think there's 30 of them, but they have some version of it, but then there's only like a handful that actually have like basically the same thing that we do.
Right.
Yes.
So a vast majority of the South American countries, basically all of them excluding Colombia, have some version of the birthright citizenship, where like if you're born there, you're a citizen. But they also have like some conditions, not like the U.S. where it's like regardless of whatever. And then most of Central America, the U.S. and Canada. I don't know what country that is in Africa. Looks like South Africa used to have it, but does not anymore. There's one country here. Looks like kind of the like Ethiopia region. I'm not sure what country that is. There's one in Africa, like Eastern Africa, and apparently Pakistan. You can be born in Pakistan and be a Pakistani citizen, with a few restrictions. So there are other countries available, or like where this is a thing, which was surprising to me because I always thought that it was just the U.S. that did this.
Well, I knew that we did that, but we did it in our specific way. But I know other countries were similar to what we did, but they don't do it at our level of clearance, basically.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I meant.
So real quick, I guess before I get into my opinion, I want to read like what Trump actually said. So
Okay.
where this came from, it was an interview with a company. I guess it's a company. They're putting out it's a 4-part documentary that's airing on HBO. And I guess the name of this company is Axios, and this is from their website that I'm reading. So this was the interview that he did with Axios that's going to be airing on HBO. And he said that it was always told to me that you needed a constitutional amendment. He's talking about like getting rid of birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
And he says, guess what? You don't. Trump said, declaring he can do it by executive order. When told that's very much in dispute, Trump replied, quote, "You can definitely do it with an act of Congress, but now they're saying I can just do it with an executive order." And then he goes on to say, quote, "We are the only country in the world where a person comes in and has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States with all of those benefits." Trump continued, "It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it has to end." And then in parentheses, it gives like context and says that more than 30 countries in most of the Western hemisphere have birthright citizenship. And so what I would have said if I was Donald Trump was that we are the only country in the world that has birthright citizenship where that birthright citizenship is abused, in the sense of like one of the countries, for example, that this is, I guess, an extreme example, perhaps a little bit, especially recently, but one of the countries in South America that has birthright citizenship is Venezuela. Now, Venezuela obviously has turned recently into a communist country, basically, and so like there aren't people in the rest of South America, for example, or Central America, illegally entering Venezuela to have a child, and therefore that child is a Venezuelan citizen.
Yeah.
So like that's the distinction that I would have made. Like what Trump said is apparently factually incorrect. Like there are 30 countries that have some sort of process that's like this, but none of those, like all of those people, even in those countries, are the ones who are crossing our southern border, so that their kids are United States citizens.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem lies, in that it's the 14th Amendment, if I remember correctly. The 13th Amendment was the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all the slaves.
Mm.
The 14th Amendment, because of the laws that were on the books at the time, the 14th Amendment was passed so that slaves, there weren't any slaves anymore, but so former slaves had a path to citizenship, so that their children who were born on American soil, like the sons and daughters of slaves, were citizens. That's why that's originally why this was passed. It didn't have, and then in recent history, it's been this, like, you know, people crossing the border illegally, having a child, and now that child is a citizen. Or even like hospitals on military bases, for example. If you have a kid, if you're like in Korea and you have a child on a hospital on a military base for whatever reason, like that kid is a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
even though they're born like across the world.
Mm.
So where I have a problem with it is that it's become abused. It's so what Trump is targeting here, and it mentions it in this article, is what are known as anchor babies.
Yeah.
Where like the families have a child there, and then the United States is hesitant to deport them because they don't want to leave the child as a citizen, and they don't want to like separate the child from his family. So like now the family gets to stay, and then when other people come to the border from, so say like the mother's brother comes to the border and says, well, hey, like I have family in the country, like you should let me in. And so it starts this like whole chain. It's called chain migration. It's like this whole thing, and it's caused a lot of problems in the United States over the last 20 to 30 years, I would say, maybe like 30 years. Just in the fact of there's a disproportionate, I'm not trying to say that, everyone that crosses the border illegally is a criminal.
Yeah.
Or, well, by the letter of the law they are because they broke the law in entering the country, but, like of that nature. But the statistics are that illegal immigrants are disproportionately involved in criminal activity. Like 50%, I think it was in the state of Texas, like 50% of all violent crimes are committed by illegal immigrants in the state of Texas. And it's like, so like they're like a very, very small portion of the population that commit a huge percentage of the crime.
Mm.
So it's things like that. And you're referencing the wall. Like the wall for me is not about really illegal immigration. It's more about drugs, human trafficking, weapons.
I get
like that.
Yeah, I get that point. I'm just saying I think it's being used as a tool it's been verbal. Like it seems like it's being described as a barrier for humans as well. So what it seems like when someone's like, "Oh, build a wall," like I think yes, there's what you just said right now about with drugs and weapons, but I also think I think in front of that it's also used, or I think it's what it's mainly used for, and what I hear and what I understand is as a barrier between a human getting into the land.
Yeah, but that's true. There are a lot of people, like I think it's the Rio Grande, like there are more people that cross that into the country than like anywhere else, any other point along the border. So, but
if it was verbally, or the rhetoric around it was used to say what you would say about drugs and weapons as the main thing, is it putting it forward, then yes.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's not really just I think it's just the way the news is, and how like, oh, they want to keep people out, and then they're like, oh no, we're gonna run with that. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah,
I think that's what it really is. But
yeah.
I think in my eyes, that's what I see it as.
Yeah, the wall itself wouldn't be too much, because I think it's something like 60% of all the people who are here in this country illegally are people that just overstayed their visas. So like they got into this country with like they were allowed say like a year on a visa or whatever in this country, but like they never reported back in. They just like their visa expired and they stayed. So like the majority, like a wall wouldn't stop people like that. Like that person flew to this country and like landed somewhere, landed in LA at LAX and like got a visa and stayed and like overstayed it.
Yeah.
So like a wall would never stop people like that anyway. So for me, the wall is more like more so the criminal activity that like I said, like drugs, weapons, human trafficking, stuff like that. Because like that would be much easier to stop. Because like there's not like someone putting a whole bunch of AK-47s in their suitcase and flying to LA.
Yeah.
Like they have to take it across it. Like it's like the ports and like the southern border, stuff like that. So, I think personally I would be okay if we ended birthright citizenship, just because of like the way it has been abused in recent years, especially. But it can't be this way.
Yeah, and it's also
it wouldn't hold up this way.
And it's not being used to what it was intended to be used. It wasn't used to give people opportunity from other countries. It was the slaves,
right,
to be given citizenship to their kids, which I don't like the way it's being used with that rhetoric and saying like, oh, now you're taking away the opportunity of like future citizens. Like, well, they weren't supposed to be technically like the way, if the law was written not cleverly, or was written to what it was intended to be written for.
About slaves.
Yeah. It should have been done that way instead of saying like all, but I think they,
and I would say
it's really generous, I guess.
Like I guess I don't remember exactly when Texas became part of the union. I know we just had it on our like This Week in History not that long ago. But when this amendment was passed, it was possible that we didn't even have a southern border with Mexico.
Yeah.
So, actually, take that back because California would have already been a state, and because California was a state during the Civil War, so we would have had a small southern border with Mexico. But yeah, it's just I think that the executive order I don't think it wouldn't stand up. It would be thrown out probably by the Supreme Court, because if you can write an executive order over an amendment to the Constitution, like in theory, I know this is again an extreme example, but why then couldn't you write an executive order eliminating free speech?
Yeah.
Like all you're doing is writing an executive order changing a law that's given to us by the Constitution. I don't think you want to go about setting that precedent, and I don't think it would fly anyway. But I also don't. While I think I would like to see it happen, I don't think it ever will. There's not going to be a single Democrat that votes for it because, not just because of Trump, but if they were trying to do this through the actual amendment process, immigrants are disproportionately Democratic voters. No Democrat would ever vote for it because they would be eating into their own base.
Yeah.
And
that's what it really is.
It's
a political tool.
And then what you were saying about people abusing it, or people that you're taking away the citizenship of people who would have been citizens or whatever. Well, it's if you're an upstanding person, you can somewhat easily become a citizen already.
Yeah.
You immigrate legally and you stay in the country. I think it's 4 years or something like that, and not have any blemishes, major blemishes on your record, and then you can apply for citizenship. And if you want to be a citizen, there is a somewhat not terribly difficult path to citizenship if you want it. I mean, besides just crossing the baby and having a child.
And it's also too
crossing the border and having a child.
Someone you would say that to someone, and then someone would be like, "Well, you don't know what the process is about this and that." Well, of course we don't know, but also we're expecting it to be this way. So, I don't know. I don't understand how people say "Oh, it's not that easy. It's not that easy." Well, on paper it is. So why isn't it easy for you in a way? And why isn't it being addressed as well? Maybe the news isn't covering on I've heard stories about people oh no, I went to the office or whatnot or for the sign up and I had to wait in this line. I'm well, you're waiting on a line. Of course you're gonna be waiting on a line for something. There's there's just literally excuses I think too, but I think it's also both sides maybe for some reason because there's bribery and all that stuff going on. There has to be, but for me, to end it, I guess, is what comes down to it, I don't think any of this would be a problem, really, in my eyes, if exactly what I think Ben Shapiro said, too, earlier. I think either it was later last week or earlier this week, about the idea when you come to America, you're not raising a Honduras flag, you're not raising a Mexican flag, and it's not to just, to separate you from your original culture or from where you came from. When you come here, I'm not trying to be harsh or anything like that. You're leaving a place that didn't really want you. When you look at it, they didn't give you any opportunity there. They didn't really protect you from criminals. Why would you want to raise that flag? I understand I came from here. Obviously, you can still have all that culture and everything, but if you don't and what he said about his ancestors, as soon as they got here, they threw all that stuff out. They wanted to be American citizens, and that's the same thing for me. When someone tells me or looks at me weird when I tell them I don't speak Spanish, it's what's the point of speaking Spanish, dude? To me, I don't I can communicate a little bit with my grandmother, but that's it. And when she even looks at, she's like, I'm American. I'm not Mexican American. I'm American. That's another thing. I think if people saw immigrants like that coming into America and being proud to work your ass off here and to be a citizen here, I think it wouldn't be. I honestly think when you look at it, I think people would give them a lot more leeway if they were coming in to the country like that, and we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah,
honestly.
I agree. But what like the sticking point for me is that there's no reason why like someone like that doesn't need to like it's completely unnecessary to cross the border illegally.
Yeah.
Like there is a pathway to like legal immigration and citizenship for the people that genuinely want to be here, and not just like leech off of the system, the welfare, the like healthcare, like all of that.
And there's been plenty of stories before this time, like when people are originally immigrating to America, where they were criminals, but when they came to America, they're like, you know what, I need to change this, and they did. They like, who knows? Like there could have been like a dude that did atrocities in England, but when he came over to America, never did any of that because he was like, this is a fresh start. And I don't think people look at it that way either, because I think what a lot of Ben Shapiro says is that the left kind of tarnishes being American, I guess. And, you know, I'm not going to say the evidence for that or anything like that right now because it's not popping in my head, I guess.
Well, what I would say is that the left today is kind of the mind that like all cultures are equal and like all right. And like there's a reason why so many people are trying to get into this country.
I mean, I look down upon on a lot of Europeans, honestly. I look down on Asian cultures. It's not that I think we're better in the sense of we're like morally or whatever they like humanity, like towards humanity. I just think we provide better than anything else in the world. And we had to smack Europe around twice to tell them, hey, this is how it has to be.
2-time World War champs.
Exactly. And there's nothing going on over there because what we did. And that's because we're better. As simple as that. We're better than everything. I don't know how you can make an argument. I mean, I did get in an argument like not too long ago about this, but I mean, would you rather be a farm worker in Guatemala or would you rather be a farm worker in the U.S.? I would pick the U.S. in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, sorry. We got a little, hopefully we didn't offend anyone. If you were offended, I think you should leave it in the comments down below and we can talk. If you are interested more into this topic and you want us to expand on it, I guess let us know in the comments down below and we'll talk to you. But yeah, I mean, we're not saying, like I said, we're not for the way it's going to be done through an executive order. Like I said, I don't like any executive order. I want it done straight through Congress. So for me, if it's going to be done, I want it to be done that way instead of through executive orders, but it's probably not going to happen. But if it does, Democrats are going to lose a voting base, which I'm fine with. So that makes them have to work even harder, even though I don't think they work hard at all.
Well, we wouldn't even feel like the loss of voter base for like a generation.
Yeah.
Because everyone who is here already or born already is probably going to be a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like that's not to say that like, you know, say Trump loses the 2020 election and a Democrat takes office, like executive order reinstating like it, just like that. I cannot foresee a scenario where like if he does this, it's in any way permanent.
Yeah, and it's also it wouldn't be his first, or if this got passed, it probably wouldn't be. It's the other executive order about the Muslim ban already got overturned anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like I would see the Supreme Court probably would overturn this even if he would sign it. Yeah. So you don't even need to worry.
It's probably
If it's gonna pass, it's gonna pass through Congress, but it's probably never gonna do that. So.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah, because bipartisanship.
And I think that I mean, you were saying like you don't like executive orders in general, and I think that there's been a huge spike in it because of I think like the divide.
Yeah.
That's been growing because like you end up like Obama at some point in his term ended up with Republican Congress in his, so like he couldn't pass any like a full Republican Congress or like House and Senate, so like anything he wanted to have done had to be an executive order. Bush ended up with a full Democrat House and Senate, so like anything he wanted done had to be an executive order. Like it's like this snowball effect.
Yeah,
it just like no one's willing to work with anyone, so it has to be.
It just cycles.
Yeah,
it really just cycles. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Honestly, it was. I don't think I think it's just like he said, she said, kind of like and build a headline. People are gonna be talking about like, oh, Donald Trump wants to do this. No, it's like, but has he done it? I mean, you have to commit the murder to be prosecuted for the murder. So
Unless we're living in
yeah.
Minority Report.
And like you said, the rhetoric he was talking about, like some of the stuff I don't like, but when he has a good idea, like I'm like, that's kind of a good idea, guys. And like I think last week or 2 weeks ago, he signed some kind of executive order for streaming services for music to pay artists fairly.
Yeah.
Which is like, yo, hello, that's
Yep.
a good thing, because people have been ripping people off, and that's.
Yep. Yeah.
If anything, he would be someone that wouldn't sign something like that, but he did.
I know. I understand.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it was. I had to put that on Facebook and only had 2 likes. Well, usually some of the stuff I get was a lot of likes, but I think it was
Trump.
Trump. Yeah.
Trump did something good. Can't have that.